Alright, I'm playing another game of Doctor Who Exterminate tonight. I will be playing with some house rules I wrote to be able to play solitaire. So I've got a loose AI that will be randomly generating at the start of rounds. There we go. That's the game. So here's our board. We've got a small town square in a roughly medieval town. I'm also using a variant for grids that I'm trying to work on so that I can play on smaller areas and go more places easier. So the Doctor and Rose have shown up on a planet, and their objective in this scenario is twofold. They're in the city square that's busy. There's lots of people milling about. And there's a beloved statue in the middle of the square that is hiding within it an alien transmitter. And obviously that kind of thing can't stick around, so their objective firstly is to destroy the transmitter. I'm just going to treat it like a character with a defense of 3 that can't take any actions, so they can get up to it and just attack it and just try to break it. Since this is a statue that the locals love and want to keep around, it's going to be defended by them. They're not just going to let them walk up and destroy it. So the thought there is, among these other objectives, there's 5 scattered around. 2 of those are blue objectives, and if the Doctor and Rose can uncover those 2 ones, then I will say that they've convinced enough people that there's something wrong with the statue and it needs to be destroyed, and then no negative effects will happen after it's destroyed. Otherwise, I'm going to roll a dice each turn, and if I roll the lightning bolt, they won't be able to act because they're going to be accosted for that turn by the locals. The second objective is the Doctor needs to find out what the cybermen are up to here once they start showing up. Obviously, that's who we're going to be fighting today. So I'm going to let him take an action replacing either a move or a shoot during the movement or shooting subphases to confront any cybermen within 3 squares. To roll 5 dice, Rose can take the action as well by rolling 3 against the cybermen's defense, and if they succeed, we'll find out the plan, and that'll be that objective. If their target is shocked, I'll reduce their defense dice by 1. So in that, we have 2 characters, the Doctor and Rose, and we've got 2 objectives to fulfill, and these tents will block sight, make it obscured, but I'll allow people to shoot through it. And we'll see what happens. One of the adventure cards I dealt myself was spatial distortion, so I used that to move one of these objective markers 2 spaces closer, so it'll be easier for them to try and get their blue objectives sooner. Alright, turn 1, uneventful. I didn't roll for any monsters to show up, and the Doctor and Rose just use both their movement and shooting phases to move up, and nothing eventful happened. Turn 2 begins, a cyberman shows up over there. The Doctor is going to use his movement. Each square is 2 points of movement, so he's got 6. He's going to go 1, 2, 3 to go around this booth. While I'll let people shoot through it, I don't think I'll let them walk through them. Rose only has 2 squares of movement, then she's going to go 1, 2. Our lovely cyberman here is on attack protocol, so he's going to just move 3 towards the nearest character. And then for the shooting subphase, the Doctor is going to move up and investigate the first objective or talk to the first person. And it was nothing special. Shooting subphase Rose is going to move up as well. 1, 2. And then our cyberman is going to move 3. 1, 2, 3. He'll go around that way. Alright, we do have a melee subphase because our Cybermat with his Hunter rule is within range that he can dash up and leap up out of the shadows at Rose there. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3 and be attacking her. Alright, for the attack, the Cybermat's rolling 3 dice, 1 for his unarmed improvised defense weapon, +1 for his melee value, and +1 for initiating the combat. Rose is defending with 2 dice for using her energy rifle as a melee weapon. Results are Rose did not get any successes, and I forgot to deal myself some combat cards here, so I just did that quick, and I got 2 extra hits that I will apply to cancel out that attack. Cybermat then falls back. At the end of the round, I don't feel like I have much use for these ranged defense cards, so I'm going to discard all of those to gain an additional fate token. Alright, at the start of round 3, I rolled and a Cyberman showed up on this end of the table. And I also rolled for initiative, and they are going to go first this turn. Cyberman starts moving closer to the Doctor. 1, 2. Cybermat's already basically in engagement range with Rose. Now for the Doctor and Rose, with the way engagement ranges work, and you're not allowed to move within an inch, because I have a grid, I kind of have to expand it to cover a whole space. So the Cybermat really has this area locked down, and Rose can't really go through that way without fighting through the Cybermat. So she's going to try going around the stall here. 1, 2. And then the Doctor is just going to move into this and see who this is. This is one of their blue ones that they need, so good for them. For the shooting subphase, this Cyberman is not going to care about shooting because he can get into engagement range. So he's going to move 1, 2. That puts him just 2 spaces away and able to move adjacent to him for melee. And the Cybermat is now actually closer to the Doctor and is going to stay put. Rose, for the shooting subphase, is going to go 1, 2 and get herself closer to that objective. And then the Doctor is going to try and run 1, 2, 3 over this way towards that objective. And I suppose I can pull these off the table now. Alright, melee subphase. First off, the Cyberman is going to step up to try to attack the Doctor. Alright, the Cyberman's dice pool is 1 for having a basic not having a weapon on his profile, but he gets +5 for his melee skill. He gets a +1 for being the one initiating combat, and then he gets another 1 for having multiple attacks and only targeting one person. The Doctor's defending with 4. I take that back, he's defending with 5. His sonic screwdriver is +4, and he's got +1 for his melee. Alright, the results of the roll, and because the Doctor defending with his sonic, which is shock, which has the shock keyword, Nope, that's the energy keyword that allows you to catch the lightning bolts and count those as hits. So in this case, the Doctor only gets 1 hit against the Cybermen's. I had already pulled out some defense dice, so I could use them to roll him. 2 hits to roll against the Doctor. An unfortunate roll there. I think I'm going to have to spend a fate point to re-roll those. It's a little better, I'll take that. The Doctor is now shocked. The cyberman goes for Rose, who's closer. It would make sense to have an AI prioritize a shocked character in melee, but he wasn't quite in range, so he'll go after Rose. Cyberman's rolling 1 base, 1 for skill, and 1 for charging. Rose rolling 2 for the melee weapon she's got. And the result is Rose defends, each one of them with 1 strike each. So the Cybermat falls back. And that ends round 3. For the upkeep phase, I will draw a new hand of battle cards. Very much useless against the Cybermen, it looks like. And the Doctor will recover. I think I need to push this guy back since he didn't completely take him out. Round 4 begins with the Doctor and Rose's initiative and no new Cybermen reinforcements in play. So the Doctor is going to first move to try and find what this objective was. Unfortunately, it's not one we were needing. And then Rose is going to move. Oh, she can't. Not with that Cybermat right there. So she's going to move 1, 2, right about there. Cybermen movement phase. He's just going to stay as close as he can to the Doctor. He's just going to stay as close as he can to Rose. Now for the shooting subphase, this is where I'm going to have the Doctor try to talk through to this Cyberman and see if he can figure out what they're up to. I was rolling 5 versus 3 defense, and I didn't really think through in too great a detail how this was going to work. I think I was just mostly thinking successes that'll be canceled by defense. It's a game system that makes a lot of sense for combat, but gets a little weird when you start trying to work other types of skills into it. But we'll go with that. So 1 success gets through, and they have their first objective. And for Rose on the shooting phase, she remembered that this energy rifle that she's been toting around is also a rifle as well as something to fight Cybermats off with. So she's going to try and shoot that thing. And she gets 2 successes, which is pretty decent. But since this is an energy weapon, I'm going to play... I was thinking about playing this card, but since it's got that hand, I can play at any time. It doesn't have to be during a combat, so I could... I'll hold on to that. We'll just roll my 2 dice and see what happens. Got an exterminate result. Rose fries the Cybermat. Cyberman's already in engagement range, so he doesn't see any reason why he can't shoot at the Doctor. Now that he's given up all his plans. Cybergun attacks with 4 dice. The Doctor defends also with 4, using probably, ingenuity and stuff to avoid getting hit. But anyway, 1 attack versus 2 defense, and plenty of combat cards to spare if I needed them. That's a miss. The shot probably blasts into these vendor stands and causes a big panic, and people are running crazy. Since the Doctor gets to go first, he's going to use his melee subphase to run up and try and sonic this guy. After rolling the dice, the Doctor has 3 successes. The Cyberman only has 2. So... he's not using the shot gauntlets. I figured with the AI not being able to make decisions, we'll just make him use his basic fists, which can kill, since that's what he's after anyway. So the Doctor wins with 1 dice, and I'm debating whether I need to throw a combat card to get 1 more chance. I think I will. Now, the Doctor succeeds only in shocking the Cybermen. But one of the adventure cards I did draw for randomly was finish them. So you can discard this card to exterminate any single character that you've shocked during the last melee subphase. So we'll play that, and we'll get our information out of that guy and remove him from the game. This doctor is brutal. With that, I will draw up my combat cards and move on to round 5. At the beginning of this round, they weren't quite so fortunate. The doctor got ambushed by a cyberman, so a cyberman busts through the stalls and tries to grab him from behind. Actually, you can't be quite in engagement range, so we'll be right there. And the doctor rolled perfect for initiative, so they're going to go first. Now, the doctor doesn't have anything more he needs from this cyberman. And I think we're going to start the turn off with the doctor playing Harangue to make that cyberman not able to do anything this turn. And for movement, he's going to go 1, and he's going to try and climb towards that objective, but I'm going to treat this as a obstruction he has to climb over, so he's going to have to roll dice to see if he can. And he succeeds, ending his turn over there. Rose is going to use her movement to pick up this objective, which is their other friendly person, so now the townsfolk won't try to destroy them when they destroy their beloved statue, allowing them to escape the board easier. I may have forgot to mention that escaping is one of the objectives too. Otherwise, there wouldn't be much point in even playing after they complete their main objective. So we're going to go right into the shooting subphase for round 5. We don't have any cybermen acting this turn. And both the Doctor and Rose are within range to attack this objective. Although the sonic screwdriver can't do anything other than shock it, which could still reduce its ability to defend. So he's going to try that first. So there's my 4 sonic dice versus the 3 defense dice, and that's 2 hits getting through. The result is clearly an exterminate, which just means a shock because of the sonic's keyword, but it does affect it. This will allow Rose's energy rifle to roll hits twice against it. Alright, for Rose's shot, she rolled pretty good, but the objective, survived pretty good too. So I'm going to throw a card at that and double the amount of strikes that I rolled. So I've actually got 6 versus 2. That leaves 4 dice to roll for damage, and double that because if it's shocked, I'll be rolling 8 dice for damage. And the dice are rolled, and there are 2 exterminate results in there, so the objective is shattered. All that remains now is for them to get out of here. Alright, for turn 6, the Cybermen are going first, and they did spawn a new Cybermat towards their current objective, which is now to leave the battlefield that way. So they've got to get past him and continue trying to evade him. First Cyberman's just going to move up to try and get close to the Doctor, and the Cybermat's just going to move up to try and get either of them. The Doctor and Rose, they're just going to move 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3 to try and get out of here. Shooting subphase, the Cybermat's going to move 1, 2, 3, and I don't think I can shoot through the statue. That doesn't make much sense. So I'm going to have the Cyberman chase after the Doctor because he's still the closest. For shooting subphase, I'm going to have the Doctor just run 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to have Rose take another shot with her rifle. That's 1 dice that gets through. And she's on fire tonight. This game seems way easier when you're rolling terrible for the cybermen reinforcements and you're rolling perfectly for the ranged weapon, and you actually have a ranged weapon. I don't normally think to bring a ranged weapon with playing with the Doctor and companions, because it doesn't make the most sense thematically. So nothing happens for the melee subphase, and we'll go into turn 7. Alright, instead of cybermen reinforcements showing up, we rolled pretty badly on the dice, and both my characters are going to start this round shocked. Fortunately, I do have fate tokens left. Spend both of those to immediately stand them back up. And they won their initiative roll off for this round, so they're going to take the first movement subphase. The Cyberman is going to give chase. Then for the shooting subphase, and the Cyberman is going to give chase. And then nothing happens for the melee subphase. I could call it here. It's pretty much won, I feel like, but rolling 8 dice to see what shows up, who knows, there might be a cyber leader showing up right to block their way out. So we'll see what happens with round 8. Unfortunately, I rolled to shock both characters again. And I only have the 1 fate point left. Okay, the Doctor's got this ability, All Hope is Lost. Once per game, a faction with 1 or more characters with this trait can exchange all its combat cards for the same number of fate markers. Glad I hung on to some combat cards. It's a rule that I'm not a huge fan of, because there's certain Doctor companion groups, like the Doctor and Donna, where they both have that keyword, and it doesn't matter, you can't use it twice because it says once per game. So, but anyway, in this case I can use it. So I'm going to get 5 fate tokens back. And then I'm going to spend 2 of them to stand them back up. And 1, 2, 1, 2. Throughout this turn I will be able to get them off the board. So let's do a little curtain call. We've got the 10th Doctor, who didn't really do much. Well, he found out what the Cybermen were doing. Rose, who fragged a bunch of Cybermats, a couple anyway. And a Cybermen that gave up their objectives, and 2 Cybermats that were destroyed. And those are the people. You can't probably tell they're people, but you know, those are the people that they were talking to in the town square. I did realize that I forgot completely about these guys, which is kind of a shame, because I actually do like the addition they bring to the rules, but I don't think it would have made too much difference. There wasn't a ton of shooting that was unconclusive. Overall, not a bad experience, and I'm glad to be able to play a game with Doctor Who miniatures.